Good evening and welcome to episode 163 of the DC Comics News Podcast, where we all gather together to talk about everything new in the DC world, movies, TV and streaming, comic books, and sometimes every now and then other news too. With me this evening is my co-conspirator, my partner in crime, the Robin to my fat man. It's Brad Fashion Felicki. How are you, my brother?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, everyone. How are you doing?
I'm great. I mean, it's the dynamic duo again tonight. Sadly, the rest of the team have prior commitments, but the show must and will go on.
Always.
That's it. So let's talk from the beginning, as we always do, with movie news. And hey, we talked about the BAFTAs last week for this wonderful movie, but now it's official. The Batman has been nominated for 3 Oscars. And are we psychic or are we just geniuses? We called some of these last week, did we not?
Yeah, we did, and I kind of knew. I thought that, man, this has to at least get some of these in the bag, nomination-wise. I would like to see it win. It's up for best makeup and hairstyling. Let's see what else. Visual effects and best sound. Now, I think that Colin Farrell alone makes it worthy of best makeup. I mean, hands down, you couldn't even tell it was him, and it didn't look fake. A lot of times, fat suits look fake. It didn't. The makeup was great. The sound with, we talked about the Batmobile sound and how it felt like a living thing, and a lot of that had to do with the sound. It wouldn't have been the same. And of course, visual effects. I think that comes into play on how cool the Gotham City in the Batman looked. It's, we've seen so many different versions of Gotham City over the years, TV shows, comics, movies. I mean, so many. And yet they still came up with a Gotham City that felt new and original. And that's not the easiest thing to do. So I come at that nomination from a fan's perspective, and thinking that it could win. But I would be completely happy if it ran away with all 3. What about you?
It deserves all 3. I mean, we said last week, Colin Farrell's makeup, and his acting performance. It's not just the makeup. Like, say, fat suits from Eddie Murphy to so many other characters. They just don't work. They just look fake. And this just looked like a guy who'd been through the wars. And to have a really Irish actor, and you've seen his other films, he's just completely unrecognizable. So he deserves credit for that. I mean, I was hoping for a best supporting actor nod for him, but makeup, yeah, definitely for him alone, spot on. The sound design, we said it last week, that car is alive. It's a living thing. In theaters in particular, and when I plug in my surround sound system at home on the TV when I watch the film, the moment that car appears, you feel it more than you hear it or see it. It's brilliantly done. Special effects, well, I, as you know, went to Liverpool for my birthday last year because I wanted to see a lot of the locations they used, including the Liver building for the famous scene where he jumps off, he does the base jump. And the amazing thing about the special effects in that film is sometimes you don't even know they are the special effects, because a lot of the sky shots when they're up on buildings is in the UK, but yet the backgrounds are Gotham City, and they're so well done that you'd never suspect otherwise. Right. And that's, to me, when a special effect's really special, not when it's flashy, glitzy explosions, boom, lasers, whatever else. It's when it's a background that wasn't there in the first place. And yeah,
and none of it felt like CGI, and I think that's kind of why I went with the Gotham thing when it came into the visual effects, is because it all looked practical.
Absolutely,
which was really, really impressive.
It was clever because it was a clever mix of real scenes, real like New York skyscraper shots, looking down on Manhattan, looking down on certain parts of the States. And what I like is what you said, where this didn't feel like a fake crazy Anton First designs of the Tim Burton movies. Then we had the ultra real downtown Chicago, which is what Christopher Nolan used in his films. And this was like the perfect synthesis of both. It felt real, but part of it was literally made for the films, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, if it wins all three, I'll be happy, and if it wins the BAFTAs too, great. Really, really, really excited about that. So yeah, that's the Batman. But obviously, there's other movies out there, and including a couple of trailers, right?
Yeah, we got a trailer this week, a new trailer for Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Gets a little more fleshed out as far as the story. What do you think of the trailer?
I loved it. It's much better fun and film, but it managed to also keep some of the darkness that DC films need, that separates them from other comic book movies. The Seven Deadly Sins were terrifying, especially when they came to life, and the boardroom scene was horrific. And it's like they're keeping that rolling with the two new villains for this film, where they are ultra powerful to the point where they seem even more powerful than Billy Batson and his siblings. That's great. And to see Billy take a step up, to see him at first want to run away and hide, but be convinced that he needs to stand and fight. I'm now actually, after this second trailer, actually keen and happy and excited to see this film now. I'm really looking forward to it. And it's the month of my birthday, so maybe I can convince my wife that we need to take a trip to the theatre to see this one. What did you make of it?
I really like the second trailer, and I liked it because we get definitely a more sense of what the villains are like. Like you mentioned, how horrifying the Seven Deadly Sins were. That's true. We get more of a sense of Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren's character for sure. It was nice to see more of them. This is a film, as it rightly should be, that's aimed more for a broader audience, a younger audience, and it doesn't have to pull the punches. Even though it can still be a competent, story-driven, great film. And that's what I think that so far I think we're going to get. And I think that that's what made the first one successful. And I think that we're going to see more of that with the second one. So yeah, I'm more excited than ever to see it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you said. It's great that DC can do that, to have films with layers, with depth. They can be a family film, but still have something with a bit more meat on its bones for the adult members of the audience. So really excited about this one. And what can have more meat on the bones than a sequel to The Joker? If we're talking dark and gritty, the Batman and the Joker are written. Gaga's clever. What do you think of her little messages in her for the new Joker film?
Leaving that little Joker card at the end of the post was brilliant. And I'm glad that we are. I feel so gun shy, for lack of a better word, about DC films right now because of what's happened over the past year. So the fact that she says she's filming, I think that's a great sign that this is moving forward. I'm still very skeptical about what the story's going to be. I don't know, it's going to be a musical thing. What does that mean? I'm very excited to learn more, and I'm glad that it's moving forward now. It's starting to film. I am really looking forward to seeing those pictures from the set that people managed to take, or those promo shots that we're going to see hopefully in the next few weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be, I think, a fun production to follow. Like we had, but when the Batman was being made, so we had new stories about the Batman every week, and I think that as this picks up, it's going to be the same thing. So I think that's going to be fun. What about you?
It's Todd Phillips, and I don't know if you remember, the whole time Joker was being made, he, to stop people leaking it, would put behind the scenes shots up, put little video clips up, and I'm hoping for more of the same with this one. And the fact that Lady Gaga's already started with the playing card thing, and to me also as well, it shows that she's a class act, that she's tipping her hat to Margot Robbie when she says, to all the little monsters out there. Of course, the famous Daddy's Little Monster t-shirt that Harley wore in her first appearance in the first Suicide Squad movie, I thought that was class on Gaga's behalf. She's an Oscar-winning actress. Joaquin Phoenix is an Oscar-winning actor. I know the performances are going to be absolutely stellar. That's what I'm looking forward to. The musical side of it, it's making me cringe a little bit. But hey, Todd Phillips did such great work with the first one that
Yeah, and it's
I can't fault it.
yeah, and I think that there might be a broad way, and I don't mean no pun intended, but how do you interpret it as a musical? How many musical numbers are there going to be? Because if there's like just a couple of scenes where maybe it's Harley Quinn fantasizing and there's a few musical numbers, I mean that stuff could work. It wouldn't have to be Les Mis or something. I think that there's a little bit of flexibility of what being a musical may mean in the end. So it's weird, and I'm skeptical, but I have my fingers crossed that, like you said, Todd Phillips is super talented, so I can kind of trust in him to do it in at least an original way that makes you go, okay, yeah, I get it now. Yeah, and we're gonna go over to a little bit different here. We're talking about some new characters in the Legion of Superhero animated movie coming out. So it looks like we're getting Arms Fall Off Boy. So what'd you make of these new characters?
That character, oh wow. When they introduced TDK in the second Suicide Squad movie, I thought it's clearly Arm Fall Off Boy as a man. So to have him in the new Legion movie where he belongs, because that's where he started as a character, is just classic. But to have legendary Legionnaires like Triplicate Girl, Bouncing Boy, it just makes me happy. As a fan, it just makes me really, really happy. So the Supergirl and Superman clips already made me smile. Now I'm ultra excited to see this animated film. And like Damien said over the last few weeks, DC have barely stepped a foot wrong with their animated movies. So this is another one, I think, which is going to get great results. Really will. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I agree. And getting into the flicky fashions part of it for a second here is that I really like the designs of the characters.
Yeah.
There's no getting around the fact that these are silly characters, but yet they made them look modern and hip. They took them seriously, so it's not just throwaway. And it's just kind of fun to see, and because there are so many different characters in Legion, how they'll use them, what the design will be. So it's kind of just fun to see exactly what these characters look like. And I'm glad to have Bouncing Boy, Triplicate Girl, all those characters come back. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this animated movie might surprise a lot of people, and it's good to have the Legion back. They're not, you had them in Supergirl series and things like that, and it's fun to have them around. I think they're just overall just fun characters.
Do you think that again from the flicky fashion point standpoint that these designs look so much like the classic 60s costumes but with a twinge of 21st century thrown in?
And that's what makes them kind of hip, is that they are modern. Whoever designed them knows, and that's a tricky thing to know, how to make them seem current but timeless and reflecting what the characters did look like. So it's not the easiest thing to do, but I think that they really pulled it off with this one.
Looking forward to. I mean, it's great that it's an animated film, but it's one we can enjoy as a home audience. I do think some of them do deserve theatrical releases, but having these films to watch at home is just great. Good, the extras and the special features, the makings of, and sometimes the little DC shorts they put on them.
Oh, the shorts are great.
Death's still my favorite one, though.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Of course.
But speaking of watching at home, the TV and streaming, there's always, of course, the news that so many shows are ending. Obviously, we've got Gotham Knights beginning, but it's sad that so many things are coming to an end, particularly these two, Doom Patrol and Titans, which are two of my favorite TV shows ever. I mean, Oh, you've got to be beat up about this as well, right?
I am, um, especially on the Titans front, because one thing that I've always enjoyed is all these new characters that they managed to bring in different seasons. And I love how they can do it and have that balance with the characters. So I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah.
And Doom Patrol is just so far out there. To be honest, it's hard for me to think how long they could have kept that going before it got either watered down or, just seemed to be spinning its wheels or being too weird just for weird's sake
Yeah.
rather than telling good stories. So maybe in the end, these shows can at least go out on top, where they
Yeah.
were very good. And that's thanks. These days, 4 seasons isn't a bad run, especially on a streaming show. A lot of streaming shows, they come in, they say what they got to say, and then they get out. Um, just because there is so much content that it gets expensive to keep these going and going and going. And maybe I'm interested to see what that may mean with what they are planning with the kind of relaunch of the films with James Gunn and things like that. I wonder what if they have something kind of brewing as far as the TV side of things go that they're just not able to say yet, and that's one of the reasons why they canceled these shows. So, uh, as bummed as I am, I'm trying to find the silver lining that maybe there is something down the pike here that's going to be pretty cool that we just don't know about yet. So yeah, I trying to keep that look on the sunny side of life, as they say in Monty Python.
Absolutely. You and I are always been the glass is half full kind of guys.
Yeah,
And while you're mainly disappointed about the Titans, don't get me wrong, I love Titans. I'm really sad about Doom Patrol because it is my favorite TV show. I absolutely love that show. But you're right. It may have had a finite life to it. And what I'm really happy about reading the article is that rather than, how horrible it is when you're really into a show
mhm,
and then it's abruptly cancelled and it's ended the season with a cliffhanger or the stuff that's been unresolved. The fact that they said no, these series will end with an ending, nothing will be left unresolved, you won't be left hanging, is such a relief. And that
right.
also means that the writing team, the directing team have managed to put together a season that's cohesive and complete. So we'll have 4 awesome seasons of 2 amazing shows. And with that news, I can live with it. And hey, that's a much easier box set to sit down and rewatch than something that's been running for
Right.
10, 12 years.
Exactly.
I can watch them
Yeah.
again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Um, yeah. That's a good point. It's a lot less daunting to have 4 seasons to sit through and catch up on than 8 or 9. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, that's that's true. Um, Yeah, and keeping on the TV streaming news, we got news that Gotham Knights has some new cast members, including Ethan Embry and Sonny Mowbray. What was your take on this?
Um, I don't know if whoever wrote this article knows who these characters are or whether they were just being coy. Because mentioning the company Mr. Brown works for and stuff like that. This is Spoiler's parents. This is Cluemaster. So I have now suddenly got even more invested in the Gotham Knights TV show because they are not just embracing Harvey Dent and creating new characters I've never heard of, but they are bringing in Carrie Kelly. They are bringing in Spoiler. They are bringing in some characters I really, really love from the comics, and to throw in Cluemaster as well. Yeah, that's actually got me a bit more hyped for this show because people have been knocking it and saying things about the trailers and the costumes or whatever else. And I don't know why people are so down on anything DC. Give the show a chance. I mean, look how long Arrow and Flash and the other shows ran. Now I'm actually excited about seeing Gotham Knights. I mean, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I think you bring up Cluemaster is a very good point and a good character in a series that essentially is trying to solve a mystery. So Cluemaster seems like a good character to bring in. And you're right that they're being kind of coy about it because their description of these characters in the article there was no reason to think that they might not be in it for more than one episode. So makes me think that these characters are going to be in it for a few episodes at least. So on Clue Master's side, then he might be, I don't know if he'd be a big bad, but he'd be one of the main adversaries in the series going forward. So yeah, it does make me more excited to check it out, and I hope it's good. I hope it surprises people, and they can eat their words.
I'm
Because I don't
praying
get
for
why.
that.
Yeah, I don't get why people are so down
Yeah.
on DC.
And Cluemaster is a great spanner in the works kind of guy,
Mhm.
because he's a pretty inept villain. And sometimes what he doesn't plan for causes more aggravation than what he does. And that's an aspect of the character I'm really looking forward to seeing. So, yeah, looking forward to that. But a villain who isn't inept, a villain who's legendary, and who's going to be played by a phenomenal actor is Lex Luthor, as played by former Walking Dead star and brilliant TV director in his own right, Michael Cudlitz. Now, this has me excited beyond belief for the newest seasons of Superman and Lois. What about you?
Yes, man, you're right. He is a great actor, a very underrated actor. Clarice, the show he was in, um, after Walking Dead, it didn't get such great write-ups. It wasn't well loved, but he was great in it, and he really showed range. It was very different than Abraham in Walking Dead. So he definitely has the range to do it. And man, it's going to be a definite different Lex Luthor than John Cryer, and like we've ever seen before on live action. And it made me realize, thinking how different they will be, how good John Cryer's Lex Luthor was. And I like it more because I was thinking, man, I would never had known that he could do a role like that before he did it. And I think it's going to be the same with him. I think he's really going to tread some new ground with Lex Luthor, because I know he's got the talent, and I think he's enough into that world that he won't be going in blind. I think he'll have his own knowledge of the character too. So I think that might be a good thing. I'm interested to see his take and how he interprets the character.
I mean, yeah, John Cryer was another one of those actors where fans, before he'd even uttered a word on the screen, were shooting down because he was in Pretty in Pink, because he was the inept little nephew in Superman 4. And I thought, well, yeah, he was, but he's a grown-ass man now. Let's see what he can bring to the role. And to my mind, he was a magnificent Luthor.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, cunning, evil, nasty. Cudlitz, however, is an actor with real gravitas. He's an actor's actor. He's a character actor. I can see this guy playing the Luthor from the early John Byrne, Marv Wolfman, Jerry Ordway, Man of Steel era. The
Yeah.
Lex Luthor that runs the city and is a criminal behind the scenes. Cudlitz has got the acting range to really pull that off.
And that's
So
some of my favorite Superman books
my
too.
favourites
So, yeah. Yeah.
to this
So
day.
yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see that.
I want to see that, and that's the only thing really that's been missing from Superman and Lois from me is Luthor, and the fact that they've cast an actor of this caliber. Wow, amazing!
Mhm.
Looking forward to that. But
Yeah.
speaking of Mr. Cryer, he may not be Lex Luthor anymore. He's got other commitments which kept him out of Superman and Lois, which is a shame. But I'm glad about who they have cast. But he apparently pitched a Legion of Doom TV series, which would have been incredible. I mean, how many villains did we see across the Arrowverse shows? And to have him as Luthor leading them, maybe a missed opportunity there, right?
Oh, I think so. And I think that had we been in a little different position with the CW shows, had they not gotten canceled, I think this would have been a cool way to um, bring in other characters, DC characters, and would be a cool source for crossovers in different seasons. Um, and I think that you could do a lot of fun things with the tone too. You could have some comedy um, and some real dark moments too, because sometimes these CW shows did go into some dark areas. But it would be, I think that it would have been fun to see a show based on the villains, and I think that it'd have been fun to see them branch off from like that series, and then how it would affect the other series. So you could, cool way to connect like the between the different shows. Kind of have like the bad guys and the behind the scenes twisting things around, and that'd be fun to explore in like a standalone series. So I would have loved it, and I would have loved to see more John Cryer as Lex Luthor anyway. So sign me up. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know, I mean, you and I, or the whole gang actually, being massive fans of the craziest show on television, the Harley Quinn animated series, know that a show about villains can work. Can be hilarious, can be dark, can be frightening. So a live action version of that, I would have been totally down for, like you say, particularly with someone like Cryer leading the way as a conniving, scheming, manipulative Luthor. He played the character brilliantly. So it's a shame. It would have been really cool. But hey, if shows like Gotham Knights go well, and the final season of Flash lives up to its billing, particularly with the return of Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, never say never. It could still happen somewhere down the line. Let's see. Let's
Glass is
see what
half full.
happens. Yeah, that's you and I to the T. That's what
Yeah.
we're about. But speaking of Harley Quinn,
Yes, we have a trailer for a animated special for Valentine's Day, and oh, I can't wait! I can't wait. What did you think of this trailer?
oh wow.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's hard to talk about this show or even the
Yeah.
trailer without spoiling it and without getting into the right shall we say adult frame of mind, because it's this show is adult in possibly all the wrong ways and all the right ways at the same time. It's crazy, and what happens, yeah, it's just people, particularly if you're over 18, we say it on the Harley Quinn podcast, but if you're over 18, go to YouTube, check out the trailer for Harley Quinn Valentine's Day episode, and you'll see what we're talking about. From the characters that are appearing in Flash having a romance with Zatanna's different. Clock King and Riddler made me laugh. Wonder Woman, yeah, sure, okay, but the end, and Harley and Ivy getting close, and the repercussions with Ivy's pheromone powers. Oh man. I can't unsee what I saw in that trailer. What did you think?
I loved I think my favorite part of the trailer was the demon
Oh yes.
and his little run. I think that was my favorite moment. I can't
Oh, where's Seth when you need him? Oh no, yeah, that little rhyme. Men of Mars, women are from Venus. What I think you need to larger. Well, let's change the subject.
And I like to see Kite Man getting some love again.
Oh, bless.
Which was good.
Hell yeah, as he would say.
Yeah. But this is going to be great. I can't wait. February 9th can't come soon enough. I really, it's going to be one of those ones. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to have to put it on and watch it right away, because I'm very excited. I'm excited for this.
Praying, because the UK did get Harley Quinn seasons 1 and 2, that we'll get season 3 soon. I mean, it's not going to be in time to have this episode here for Valentine's over here, but I need to see it somehow, because that trailer was incredible. Absolutely.
It really was.
Speaking of trailers and hints and teases, it looks like DC is going to be having some night terrors, and this was an article which really made me stand up and pay attention. What about you?
Yeah, it's very interesting what the article took from it. Like, they're saying how night terrors maybe it deals with kids, because kids are most likely to get night terrors between the ages of, what they say, 3 and 5, which is very interesting. And spelling it night, like Dark Knight, so it looks like it's obviously going to be Batman centered, which is cool. Of course, a lot of the Batman centered, Dark Knight's death metal have been really good in the past few years. So I I'm thinking that whatever it is, um, it's going to be cool and repercussions. And yeah, and I kind of part of my mind went to Scarecrow because of the terrors thing.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking, well, I don't know if they would do that because they did it. They just did a big Scarecrow story with Fear State not long ago. So it just makes me wonder if that's going to happen. I don't think that it makes me doubt that Scarecrow is going to play as big a role as it may seem. So that's that. What do you think?
I just love the way
Yeah,
they've
well,
deciphered these little teasers in detective mode, which would make even Batman happy. So I'm intrigued about any event. DC do events better than just about anybody. They don't alienate the readers because you don't have to buy every single chapter.
mhm.
You can just get the miniseries, and that is what I love about DC crossovers. But like you say, Night with a K, making it sound like it's going to be Batman centric. Who's my jam? Batman's my boy. He's the character I read about, and finding out and seeing Dick Grayson, Nightwing, as one of the main focuses for the recent Dark
That's what,
Crisis.
and that's what I was going to bring up too. Is that I think Nightwing's going to play a part, and not only because of Dark Crisis, but I think that consistently the Nightwing book has
Oh,
been one of the best that DC's done in a long time. Both,
absolutely.
from what I can tell commercially, but definitely critically. So I think that kind of basing it on him is, or him having a big part in it is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my yeah. So that is another thing I wanted to mention. I'm glad you reminded me about that. Yeah. And the next story we have is that we are getting a new Cyborg ongoing
Yes.
series. What was your take on this?
You know what I'm going to say? It's the Titans. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. The fact that Tom Taylor's not just killing it with Superman John Kent, he's not just killing it with Nightwing. Nightwing 100 saw Dick Grayson turn down leadership of the Justice League in order to bring the Titans as the main superhero force in the DC universe and building a brand new Titans tower in Bloodhaven. And of course, you can't have just the Titans book and just the Nightwing book. It's great to see that the next Titans solo book will be Cyborg because I love this character so much. I was one of the first people to jump for joy when all his scenes were reinstated in Zack Snyder's Justice League and he became the heart of the movie as he was supposed to be. He is one of the deepest, richest, most complex characters DC has. And if anyone deserves an ongoing solo book, it's him. I just hope this one lasts. I just
Yeah.
hope this one's successful.
Mhm.
I love Vic Stone. Nice creative team.
Yeah.
So super excited. And here's me, the guy who's starting to sell his comics collection and says he's going to cut down buying comics. And what happens? Tom Taylor on Titans and a new Cyborg series. I can't win, but in case I kind of do win, don't I?
Yeah. We all win.
But what
Yeah.
did you make of it?
Yeah. I'm excited for it. I really like that Morgan Hampton is going to write on it, who was part of the Milestone Initiative. I really think that
Yes.
that's cool that we're getting to see some of that in the comics. Some of those winners start producing work, and I hate to go back to flicky fashions, but man, I really like the design of the new Cyborg. I love the colors, and I've said before that a lot of times how I think something is going to be good is how what the costumes look like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to movies. And I'm looking at this, and it makes me want to read it because the design is so fresh and new. I just that cover is uh, amazing. So that alone makes me excited, and I can't wait to see what this new creative team is going to do. Yeah, so yeah, I'm going to say it again. It's a great time to be a DC fan, and it's books like this that are the reason that keeps me coming back
Here,
and
here.
being a DC fan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, it's not just Cyborg. In Brightest Day, in Blackest Night, Green Lantern's back, and he's going to give fans a treat. But not what we were expecting. We were expecting a few Green Lantern series, and it sounds like they're going to combine them, right?
Yeah, they are. But Jon Stewart's still going to get a big story, so that's good. And they described the story as a story of redemption, loss, and finding out that maybe you can go home again. So that's interesting. Like, exactly what home are we talking about? And the Flashpoint Beyond team is going to be behind it, minus Jeff Johns. But I enjoyed Flashpoint Beyond, so
I
I think
loved
that,
Flashpoint
yeah.
Beyond.
So I think that that's a good sign as well. So, and it seems like they're not rushing it out. It's going to be a little while, and I think that that's good too. They can fine tune it, and yeah. So I think this could be good potential, especially if we really want to see Green Lantern come back in the live action somehow. The movie, although I didn't mind, I honestly I didn't mind the Green Lantern movie as much as
Me
a
neither.
lot of
I
people
liked
hated
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that movie really soured people or the corporate heads to the character.
Yeah.
And it would be good just to have these things that can kind of show what good stories can be in Green Lantern, so that we can maybe get that live action series or the live action movie again, because the character, I think, really deserves it. So yeah, I have pretty high hopes for this series as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for a couple of reasons. For starters, like I said, the Green Lantern Corps are fascinating. They're some of my favorite comics, some of my favorite characters, and I know that a whole bunch of us at DC Comics News feel the same way about Hal Jordan and John Stewart and all the other Lanterns. But the fact that they are now making two series one, I actually think is a good thing, because DC are doing really well with Action Comics and Detective Comics, where they have 2 stories per month, and having 2 Lanterns in one book. Well, it's easier for people to collect and less chance of you missing an issue. So I'm happy about that. In retrospect, I actually think it's a really good idea to have both the Green Lanterns under one cover. So brilliant. And 2 of the best, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, probably my 2 favorite Lanterns, if I'm honest. Oh no, Jessica Cruz, I love her as well. But yeah, so many ways they can go forward, a whole core of characters they can bring in. So yeah, looking forward to that.
And maybe it'll be a little less confusing for new fans who want to pick up the book
Yeah.
if there's just one. I think maybe
Yeah.
that could be a smart thing too.
Absolutely.
If you were to go into a comic shop today and you think, you know what, I want to get into Batman. I really like that Batman movie, and you'd go in to see how many Batman comics there are, you wouldn't know where to start. So I think in a way that can be nice to simplify things a little bit, to have one series instead of 2.
Yeah, with monthly books, it's a nightmare. With graphic novels, not so much. But to have, one Lantern title with a few Lanterns in it, great stuff.
Yep. And also, we are getting some more revamped and new series, including a Hawkgirl and/or Hawkman series, and a new Wonder Woman revamp on the horizon. What was your take on this?
With the Hawkman Hawkgirl, bring it on. The last series by Robert Venditti was criminally underrated. Not enough people read it, and it was a damn shame when it got cancelled, because honestly, that to me was one of the greatest things to come out of the Rebirth era. That Hawkman series by Robert Venditti was fantastic. And I think that the Black Adam movie might have a part of this resurgence in Hawkman Hawkgirl, because again, the Justice Society stole the show. It was almost a Justice Society movie featuring Black Adam, and I actually loved that aspect of it because I'm a huge Justice Society fan. So that's great news. Happy about that. What concerns me is a Wonder Woman revamp. I love Diana. You've already killed her in the last few years and brought her back as a demigoddess. Leave her as that. She deserves that. She was the first and arguably still is the greatest female super character of them all, the one from where all others sprang. By a revamp, I hope that means maybe a new costume, maybe a new location, and maybe one more title. Superman's got Action Comics and Superman. Batman's got Batman and Detective Comics. If anyone deserves 2 ongoing series per month, it's Diana. It's Wonder Woman. And if not her, bring in Yara Flor, bring in Nubia, bring in the rest of the Amazons. There's a rich universe there. We discussed that when Kelly came back a couple of weeks ago. Wonder Woman is probably the finest it's been since George Perez was on the book right now. It's amazing. So I don't want to revamp so much as just maybe a bit more Wonder Woman. I mean, how did you see it? What did you make of the story?
Yeah, I agree, because there has been, and when we were putting together our top stories of 2022, one of mine was the Trial of the Amazons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was going on with Wonder Woman. It was just her return. Yara Flor is one of my favorite new characters. I can't get enough of her. What they did with Nubia, making her queen, was great. It's a very strong book, and one of the DC books that's the funnest to read. So if they're going to revamp it, like you said, I hope they don't change too much of what they had set up in this new run. So don't think in terms of a reboot, but just think of it as a continuation, where the things, those things that were put in place are still there, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure that Nubia will still be queen and all that. But I just hope they continue to build on what they had with the most recent run, because it's been really good. And I think that, like you said, I think with the Hawkman series, it's a great time to do it because of the Black Adam movie.
Yeah.
He was great in it. The character was great. The character
Absolutely.
wasn't cheesy. They made it work, and I think that now is the time to really get a good Hawkman series out there. So yeah, definitely. It's good to have him back in his own book. I mean, it's certainly been a long time that he's had his own series. So yeah, I think he deserves it, and I think that's a testament to the Black Adam movie that he did so well that they're going to bring the series back for the character. I think that's a really good sign. We might not get Henry Cavill back, but we did get a really good Hawkman and a really good Doctor Fate. I'd love for them to announce a Doctor Fate series too.
Wow.
But you imagine. But yeah, I think it's a good sign, and the fact that this is the dawn of DC and Hawkman is one of those characters in the dawn of DC, I think that's a really kind of good sign for the future of the character as well. And talking about the future of characters, looks like Titans are going to kind of take the place of the Justice League. Like, we had hinted at that a few stories before, but what was your take on this?
I'm the happiest man in the world right now. You can probably see my grin from space. A, because Tom Taylor's writing it. B, because Nicola Scott, as Tom Taylor says, one of the finest comic book artists on earth, no doubt. Her Wonder Woman run, her characters, her work on just about everything I've seen, I've loved. And to have... this is the part that annoys me, because people are saying, oh, not that Titans lineup again, that old Titans lineup. And I think the word you're looking for is classic Titans lineup.
Yeah.
The New Teen Titans is still one of the biggest selling DC books of all time. It was outselling the X-Men when it came out. It was the only teen book to spawn a second book. There was New Teen Titans and Tales of the Teen Titans. Then there was Titan Spotlight. It was magnificent. I've still got every single Perez Wolfman issue, and I don't know if I could ever sell those. I love them so much. The first appearance of Nightwing, characters like Donna Troy, and to see them walking towards you on that beautiful cover by Nicola Scott, that classic Titans lineup, and it's spinning out of Tom Taylor's, we already said it, amazing, stellar Nightwing series, and them being the premier DC super team. They're not sidekicks anymore. They are the A-level, top tier heroes of the DC universe. This book was made for me, absolutely made for me. So this is one of the best pieces of news in months, if not years, for me. Love it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a classic lineup. Like you said, the magic word there is classic. And you're right. That picture of them standing, that's very cinematic. I could see that, in a movie or in the Titans show. It's good. And these characters are popular between the animated series that we got, the comics, as is. I mean, talked about how great Nightwing is. So it makes sense to bring these characters back in a way that or I shouldn't say back, but to the forefront,
Yeah.
because I think they deserve it. I think that they are both strong characters, but also very beloved characters. So I think it's time for them to shine.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Justice Society. I love the Justice League. But the team that stole my heart as a teenager, the team that grew up with me, was the Titans. Dick Grayson and the Titans are the very few comic characters, apart from maybe Spider-Man, who has grown up with his audience. To see Dick Grayson step away from being the kid sidekick and become his own man, become Nightwing, it was fundamental and one of the reasons I never quit reading comics. So seeing this classic Titans lineup shows that Tom Taylor possibly had a similar experience reading comics, or we know he reveres Marv Wolfman and George Perez. He makes them appear in random issues of Nightwing. George and Marv's Pizza is one of my favourite aspects of the Nightwing series, and a restaurant I wish existed in real life, because I'd eat a slice from there every day of the week to see those two guys. So having the Titans where they deserve to be, I'm a happy fan. And speaking of fans who are crossing over, we've talked about Nicole Maines acting as Dreamer and now writing Dreamer, but Zachary Levi and the other Shazam Fury of the Gods cast members are going to be co-writing the Shazamily Family Matters. No, Shazamily Matters. I can't even say it. Shazamily Matters special. Shazam. That's one on my pull list. What about you?
Yeah, I love this idea. I love that they're letting these actors and actresses write these stories. We had Danny DeVito writing a Penguin story,
Yep.
Paul Dano writing the Riddler
brilliantly
story. Yeah, and I love it because it really shows that the actors care about these characters, especially in Nicole's case with Dreamer, because that character is her. So I really like that because it really shows that these actors are into the characters. And I think one of the things that made Shazam a good movie is the enthusiasm that
absolutely
Zachary Levi had for the character. He just loved playing the character, and you can tell, and he can put that same passion into writing the story. And same way with all the others. I think it's going to be a fun special. So yeah, a poll list for sure. Oh, what about you?
It's going to be magic. It's a special, so people can pick it up. And again, these anthologies, these one shots that DC make, buy them all. You will not be disappointed because they're great. And when you get the cinematic talent who make the movies a success get involved in the comics, I think it can only be a good thing. I mean, case in point was Kevin Conroy's story in the most recent DC Pride special.
Yeah, perfect example. Yeah.
So
I forget that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So sign me up. I am 100% up for that. And I love, and I will call him it, don't care if you hear me or not, Marvel. The original Captain Marvel is one of my all-time favorite comics characters. Shazam rules, the Shazam family rule. This is just another layer to that. They're getting their own series with Mark Waid and Dan Mora, and this special, they're back.
It's nice to have Mark Waid back.
Yeah. Lightning has struck.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
And that's it. We've talked movies, TV, and comics in our 163rd episode. Has anything else been happening in the world of DC for you in the last week?
I reread Killing Time. That was a fun story, and I also picked up the Wonder Girl hardcover with the series and the future state books. So I'm looking forward to diving back in to that. That's another beautiful hardcover edition. So for me, this week has been a lot of on the reading side of DC and kind of rediscovering some of those series from last year. It's like I like with the collected editions come out because I like reading the whole story as one solid
I'm the
chunk.
same.
I find it flows better, and you don't have to go back and reread the issue again to remember. So I love rereading those stories as one big chunk. So it's been my week in DC.
Anything with Joel Jones's name on it, I'll snap it up. Incredibly talented writer and artist, and a lovely human being. So yeah, I'm up for that too. It's funny you should say rereading, because Batman: The Adventures Continue is going into season 3. I'm rereading seasons 1 and 2 in preparation. So that's as well, because again, I'm like you with the miniseries. Unless I'm reviewing it weekly or monthly for one of the sites, I tend to wait until all the issues are out and read them all in one chunk. I just find it more satisfying. So yeah, I've been doing a bit of that too, and putting in my pre-order, because on February 14th, Sandman Book 5 is out. Yes. Collecting Endless Nights. What is it? The other one, the Sandman Midnight Theatre and Dream Hunters. So Sandman fans, February 14th, Valentine's Day, that book is out. Pick it up if you've got books 1 to 4. It will be the first collection continuing the stories after the initial 76 issue run ended, and for less than $30, it's a steal. Grab that one.
Oh, and another thing I've reread recently is the second collection of the Nightwing series, the Gick Grayson. That first issue in that collection where he's trying to make his way home, the way that felt so influenced, but in a cool way, by Chris Ware's work, that rereading that blew my mind. I love that first issue. I forget exactly what issue of Nightwing.
87.
87. I thought it had a 7. Yeah, 87. Yeah, that issue was one of the coolest single issues I've read in so long.
It's the first to my mind. I mean, I know there's been lots of double, triple, quadruple page spreads, but this is the first comic to my mind where all 20 pages have formed one image. And I wish they'd done in the UK and in the States what they did in Spain, where they launched that as a pull-out book. So you can actually see it all in one image. You can fold it page by page, or you can pull it all out.
That's brilliant. And I'd be willing to take a trip there just to pick that up.
I'm contacting family members to see if they can grab an issue for me, because I need that, either that or I'm going to end up buying another 2 or 3 copies and laying them out that way. Yeah, because that issue was simply incredible. I did say, because I review Nightwing monthly, that one of the frustrating things about it, even though every guest artist they bring on is fantastic, was that I wanted to see more Bruno Redondo, because his work on that is incredible. But I can see why he needed a couple of months off because of that issue, because it was mind-blowing. Yeah. People, if you're not reading Tom Taylor on Nightwing, you are seriously missing out. Nightwing book 1, Leaping into the Nights, on its 3rd printing, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, that flew off.
Yeah, because it's magnificent. Magnificent. So there's 3 books out: Leaping into the Light, Fear State, and Get Grayson. Pick them up. You will not be sorry. So that wraps up episode 163 of the DC Comics News podcast. But before we let you all go, Brad, why don't you tell everyone watching and listening where they can read your work, where they can chat to you online?
You can read my work at dccomicsnews.com. News and reviews. You can find me on this wonderful podcast, as well as the Harley Quinn Mad Love podcast, part of the DC Comics News podcast network. And you can follow me on Twitter at FlickyB1. That's FILICKYB and the number 1. What about you, Steve? Where can people find you?
Easiest way to read my news, reviews, features, and interviews across DC Comics News, Dark Knight News, and Fantastic Universe is just go to Google, type in Steve J. Ray or Fantastic Universes, and you can read all that stuff. To talk to me, quickest and easiest way is again on Twitter at LStevo, EL_STEEVO. But you can find DC Comics News and the DC Comics News Podcast Network across social media platforms at DC Comics News, all together, no spaces, on Twitter, dccomicsnews.com, and on Tumblr and YouTube as well with this very show. I also have a second show with my cub Adam, which is called I Am the Night, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series, breaking down every episode week by week. And we are going to finish season 2 as a video and podcast, much the same way we've relaunched DC Comics News. So we're going to end one season in the new style before we head into season 3 and the new Batman Adventures. So look out for that across Spotify, Twitcher, Google Play, wherever else you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can catch this show and those other 2 as well. But in the meantime, before you listen to us, you need to
read
more
comics.
comics. We salute you, and we'll see you next week. Take care.